Traveling to Consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri. Today's podcast, we are talking about the news, we are talking about politics, and then we're going to also talk about how it blends into the spirituality, talk about some of the recent events over the last week. I do apologize. I did not get you guys an Indigo Education podcast last week. Last week was crazy. I got a new job, very big boy job. Very big boy job. I got it's going to be a managerial job. I'm going to be looking over people with software engineering. So I'm very excited about that. So that took up a lot of my last week, filling out paperwork. And then I also got plagued with a sickness, a little bit of a cold. So still fighting off the last bit of that. And we're going to jump into politics and news. But for the Indigo Education podcast that is going to be coming up this week, it's going to be very powerful. It might be the most powerful Indigo Education podcast, so make sure you listen to that. But in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the news events of the last week. I'm going to give you my personal opinion on them, especially from a political standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint as well, because that's what we're doing here. We're merging the spiritual and the political because we have to. The people in power right now they might be spiritual, but they're doing spiritual things in the name of evil. So maybe they are lower entities. Maybe they are enlightened. I don't know. But all I know for sure is that they are possessed by a force that is not working towards the highest elevation of humanity. And we need that. We need people to enter into the political system who care about the next generation, who care about their fellow man and woman, who care about the brothers and sisters that they're losing in foreign countries, not even just our own country, because that's all we are, is really one big family. We need to start looking at ourselves like that. Stop going across these divisions in regards to where you were born, how you were born, what you look like, the color of your skin, your sex, your sexual identity, whatever it is. We have to realize we're one family. And something that happened a week ago to the day that kind of shocked me. On February 10th, Trump came out and said that Palestinians, and this was whenever he was meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the prime minister of Israel, he said in the press conference that Palestinians, essentially, what they're going to do is America should take over the Gaza Strip, basically kick out all the Palestinians that are left, remove all the bombs, and then rebuild it. Now, I think that's absolutely insane, first of all, for many reasons. But number two, if you were listening to my Hurricane Helene podcast, I told you that this is what they do. They create the war, they create the devastation, and then they go in and try to build it back up. Look for the names of BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, who will own this. They're not going to sell it. And I think you also need to realize that it's not going to be given Palestinians, and I guess he even said that, is that they won't have the right to return to Gaza. So forcibly displacing a population, which is crazy. And then he's telling all of the other nations in the area to take them in, which I find hilariously hypocritical, considering the last, what are we at here, 10 years of him being in politics, that he has said that, people need to come into America, legally. This is like the force. It's going to put such a strain on all these other countries that honestly most of them don't have the ability to care for these people. And it's just sad. I think this is a very crazy, I'll say it. I think this is a very evil idea. I mean, I'm probably about 50-50 on things Trump does. I'm very honest whenever I agree with him, but this is not one of them. I think that this is actually very evil. I support the idea of us removing all of the bombs that we put there, considering we funded that. Well, the Congress funded that, the American government funded that, and then incidentally, the American taxpayer funded it, not because we won it. And that's what really blows my mind as well, is that one of the things that Americans are overwhelmingly agree upon, 85 to 90%, of Americans believe that we should not be funding foreign wars. They don't want any more we don't want any more proxy wars. And yet that seems to have been the prime agenda of Congress, of the power of the purse, is to just give money for wars. So I think there's even a valid argument that we're not even being represented in our Congress. I think it's so sad. It's honestly disgusting. And all of that money is what has caused hyperinflation. It's what's caused, or what's going to cause, the financial crash that's coming at some point. I don't have a timeline for you, but get ready, because there's no way that this is going to be stable for too long. But getting back to it, right? Trump is saying that Palestinians won't have the right to return to Gaza. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, dude, what in the world is going on? I mean, and he's saying this with Benjamin Netanyahu right beside him. And if you look at the tape, the prime minister of Israel looked like he kind of smirked, like he didn't know that it was going to be said. Maybe he did and was happy that he said it. I don't know. But there was also a clip that came out of that where President Trump, President of the United States, moved Benjamin Netanyahu's chair in for him. And I'm kind of torn on it. Partially, I feel like that's not a good look for the United States. I feel like it's not a good look for the president of the United States to be doing that for any foreign leader. I think there is like a level of respect that you can give to people, but to move in the person's chair, I don't know. I'm kind of wish-washy on that. I'm not sure. It doesn't look good. It definitely did not look good from an optics standpoint. But optics aside, I think when we get back to the root core of what we're talking about here, which is the Palestinians not having a right to return to their homeland, I think that's absolutely insane. I mean, it's under this guise that nothing else has worked. What are we going to do? And to think that this is going to quell to silence the industrial war machine, the industrial military complex, is just insanity, because it's not. This is not going to stop that in the slightest. And I think that this has that guise under it. Like, okay, this will create peace. This will make peace in the Middle East. And you're just going to radicalize more people. And not only that, and here's where it gets even crazier, right? And this gets into our next thing, where they found that USAID, and I think I told you guys this before, at least I've alluded to it, but I never had concrete evidence of it until now. USAID has been giving millions of dollars to designated terrorist organizations. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, provided millions of dollars in funding to extremist organizations tied to designated terrorist organizations and their allies, according to a report published by Middle East Forum. Quote, the Middle East Forum's multi-year study of USAID and State Department spending has uncovered $164 million of approved grants to radical organizations, with at least $122 million going to groups aligned with designated terrorists and their supporters. I told you. Quote, billions more of federal dollars have been given to leading American aid charities, which have constantly failed to vet their terror-tied local partners and show little interest in improving their practices, to the apparent indifference of the federal government. End quote. I told you guys, didn't have the smoking gun till now. Now it's mainstream. Told you guys this several podcasts ago, several weeks ago. I mean, there's the evidence. The evidence is in what we left in Afghanistan, leaving $80 billion worth of military equipment for I think it's ISIS. Sorry, I apologize. I believe it's ISIS that's in Afghanistan. Shit. That doesn't look good. I got to go look up what terrorist organization. Afghanistan. But I'm telling you, the point is, regardless of what we name them, is that we're funding it. Yeah, there's Al-Qaeda, ISKP. So is it Al-Qaeda still? I thought it changed into ISIS, or it was like the Taliban, and then it became See, they change the name so often, they make it difficult. But regardless, point still remains is that our government, through these slush funds, here they found it in USAID, and I guarantee you that's not going to be the only place that it is found. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, CIA, cough, cough. They give they do it in front of our faces too, which is essentially what Afghanistan was when we left the $80 billion. They literally showed us that they left all that stuff there and just let them take it. So they give them all of the weapons to fight them, and then we have to spend billions of dollars to fight them back, and then we kill tens of thousands of innocent civilians along the way. And now, to wrap it full circle, you can't go back to your homeland. You have to leave. You can't return. We're going to fix it up. We're going to make it nice. We're going to make it beautiful. According to Trump, they're going to have unlimited jobs, infinite jobs. There's going to be infinite jobs, and none of them are going to go to Palestinians. So I'll give you 3 guesses on who's going to be occupying that land. And if you said Israel, you are correct. So we'll see how that shakes out. Something I do agree, we'll make a little pivot here, because, I can't be all negative Nancy over here. But something I do agree with would be essentially what DOGE has been doing, the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk. First of all, they were the ones kind of accredited for finding the terrorist that USAID was giving out this money. So, round of applause, kudos to them for actually bringing it public. Again, not that it was hidden before that, but, they had found a lot of things. They found the EPA, for instance. They found the EPA was wasting $20 billion in taxpayers, taxpayer dollars. But this kind of goes back to the Biden administration, because the Biden administration essentially knew that they were wasting it. And then whenever Biden was leaving, there was kind of like this whole thing where there was a video that was circulating where they were just literally trying to spend the money as quickly as possible. It's so bizarre. It's actually really bizarre. And I think, let me see if I can find the quote. Yeah. So this is an EPA minister, Lee Zeldin. He said in a famous video, now this was probably the video I saw, an extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were, quote, tossing gold bars off the Titanic, quote, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day, end quote. Yeah. And essentially the EPA was just giving out to agencies. Here, I'll just read the quote here. Or I'll read the article here. It says the EPA found that just 8 agencies were controlling the distribution of tens of billions of taxpayer dollars to different entities, quote, at their discretion, end quote, such as the Climate United Fund, which reportedly received just under $7 billion. Guys, the craziest thing about this is that there's also no oversight. And maybe that's what DOGE is kind of coming into be, is holding people responsible, or well, at least uncovering it. I suppose the next level is actually prosecuting people, because these shenanigans are just going to keep going until someone gets held accountable. And who knows, maybe it's all of the people that Joe Biden pardoned on his way out. And so they'll be like, oh, well, we found out it was all these people, but Biden preemptively pardoned them, so can't do anything about it. Oops. And that's how this system works, guys, to keep the elite in power and to keep us down, to keep us out of control, out of power, out of control. The common man needs to be the one who is in control of politics, of the world, of government, because we're the ones who are kind-hearted. We're the ones who care about our fellow man, our fellow woman, our fellow children, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles. Everyone, all the elites at the top seemingly feel as though they need to destroy this world. And it blows my mind. And hopefully we're getting to that point. We're hitting that turning point. And that's what I see happening. As much as I talk about this doom and gloom in regards to, how awful these things are, right? Like this idea that no one's going to be held accountable, or this idea that there's a financial collapse coming. in the short term, they are tragic. They're going to be very tragic, and they already are. These things already are tragic. But the key to remember, and you're in here early, if you're listening to this podcast, you're in here early before the revolution happens. Key to remember is that this is how the revolutions start. This is how they take off. This is how they get momentum. Is things get to a place that is so bad, it is so dark, it is so evil, that there is no other choice but for us to revolt, for us to stand up, for us to seize power, not because we deserve it or because we're, bestowed upon us, but because it's what is needed to restore balance and harmony to the world. And it took me so long to realize that. For so long. I was in the spiritual matrix of politics bad, money bad, all of it's lower frequency vibration, so bad. You need money to live. You can't go anywhere without money. And politics runs the world too. I think I've used this analogy before, but they're essentially the power items in our world, on planet Earth. Politics and money are the power items. Those are it. The best two examples I've ever seen, COVID happened. Everything got shut down. You had no say over it. Politics basically just shut it all down. Mr. Fauci, unelected Mr. Fauci, we just shut it all down. No options, right? Crushed small businesses. Raised up the 1%. We keep calling it the 1%, but at this point, maybe it's like the 0.1%, the 0.1%, the 0.2%. I don't know, but crushed them. And when it comes to money, I looked at this in terms with Elon Musk, because in SpaceX, what he's trying to do is there's a whole bunch of different reasons why, but they're doing their Starship, the huge one that's supposed to get people to Mars. They're doing it in a town called Brownsville, Texas, where essentially nobody lives. There's nothing there. And he's basically just creating an entire city in Brownsville. Like, he's building up that town, all with SpaceX employees, but they need buildings, they need houses, they need bakeries and shops that just don't exist there. And so because he has the money, because he has the funds, he can literally create a city wherever he wants. The amount of money that he's giving to engineers, it's going to be like triple their salary essentially to just move down there compared to living in LA. And then you have the cost of living increase too, or decrease, I guess, technically, which cuts it in half. So your pay is getting jumped 5 to 10 times. It's absolutely insane. And he can do that. He can do that because he has the money. And so as spiritual individuals, we can no longer be afraid of power, specifically in regards to politics and money. The spiritual people of this world have to inherit the earth. We have to inherit all of it, the money, the politics, so that we can set the world straight. It's up to us. It's up to the ones who care so deeply about themselves, have done the inner work, have learned about energy, who have listened to my indigo education podcasts, who have made the choice to better themselves in a spiritual sense, and they're ready to take that step into serving others. Because I completely agree that, and maybe this is you're at the point in your life where you need to get yourself together. You need to put yourself all in a bundle. And that's good. You got to do that. You got to clean your room. You got to make sure that you're paying your bills. You got to make sure that you got a solid job, all these things, definitely. But you have to kind of have this vision of where you want to take all of that. And this was a huge catalyst in my life of realizing why. Realizing the why. Why should I get a job? Why should I care about money? Why should I care about politics? And my why is because we need to create heaven on earth. We need to create the new earth. We need to create world peace. And I'm only here for another 60 years if I'm, 60, 70 years if I'm lucky. It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time. So we have to get moving. We have to do it. We have to pursue greatness in everything we do so that we can leave that as a legacy for our children, for our children's children, for everyone who will ever walk this earth now and in the future. Because without it, all there is destruction and chaos and pain and suffering. And it's not a world that I want to live in. It's not the world I want to inherit. I don't want to leave that to my kids. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to them. I don't think it's fair to anyone. I mean, what else are we doing here if we're not trying to leave everything in the world a better place? Why do anything at all? So we can do it. We will do it because we have to do it. Before I get out of here, I also wanted to leave a little comment about some more plane accidents. Guys, something's going on in the skies. I don't know if it's the radio jammers. I haven't gone in and dove into every single one of these instances personally, but we've got more plane accidents. On February 10th, at least one was dead after a jet crashed into another plane at Scottsdale Airport in Arizona. February 12th, a military plane crashed in the San Diego Bay. The two pilots of it were thankfully rescued. Later that day, February 12th, a plane was caught on camera crashing into a New England neighborhood, which narrowly missed some homes. Again, the pilot was okay. Thank God. And then 2:15, February 15th, a plane crashed in Atlanta, killing 2. Guys, there's something going on in the skies. Don't know what it is. I'm just putting it out there that something's going on with the planes. The number of crashes has been absolutely insane. I don't understand why no one else is covering it. At least I haven't seen anyone else covering these insane amount of plane crashes. But we'll figure it out at some point what's going on there. I want you to figure out what's going on with you. Figure out if it feels right to get involved with the American Congress Party. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're still putting your life together. I totally respect that. What I also would love to ask you to do is to share this podcast, because word of mouth is how we're going to save this planet. Truly is. You tell one person, they tell one person, they tell one person. And the thing is like there's a law of 7, I believe, or 7 degrees of separation is what it's called. 7 degrees of separation, which means we're at most separated by every single person on this planet by 7 people. By 7 people. So if that chain reaction happens, if that chain reaction gets started where you tell 5 people, they tell 5 people, you just need that to happen 7 times. And we come together. We save nature. We save the world. And maybe I'm making it there will definitely be some work to be done there. But we can do it. We have to do it. It's not a matter of if we can or will we or blah, 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 blah. We have to do it. So I appreciate you all for being here. Please, please, please share this podcast episode. And if you don't share this podcast episode, we're going to have a talk about it whenever I see you in the 6th dimension.